Thank you very much. We had some really interesting presentations this session on an important topic, climate change and how to build resilient communities in the Pacific. So I'd like to open the floor up for questions in response to some of the presentations that we heard today. I'll just ask, are there microphones ready for... So we've got one microphone, we've got a couple, maybe if we can get one up front for the presenters to answer and then one for the floor. Great, so questions. I have one there. Okay. And if you can keep your hands up so we know where to deliver the microphones, that would be great. So when...
Thank you. Thank you very much. Very interesting. I just have a comment, not a question. Many times we see that organizations or city councils or, for instance, Solomon Islands, Cook Islands, go through all these disasters and there is a lot of lessons learned from it. But there are no written documents as to what are some of these lessons that we can learn from these countries. And I think it's important that we start documenting these things so that other countries can learn from it. Thank you.
As a comment, any other questions?
Good morning all, and my name is Ray. I'm from the Kiribati Local Government Association in Kiribati. I'm the assistant officer to the project. This project is an EU-funded project, which was in Kiribati for 2 years, and now they've left us to run and to sustain our project. And throughout our activities during the period where we were funded by EU, they sent us a training on climate change, and it was for local governments. It was a first-time training for us to send. It was the first time for us to send out local government officers since establishment to attend this training on mitigating and conserving biodiversity in Chechu. And I was fortunate enough to attend the training. I was with the other Pacific Islanders, Lulu Ted from PNG, and before going, it was a very new issue for us, climate change. Firstly, because we were new to the local government, but then during our time studying what programs we had within our councils, we found out that there was no portfolio for climate change. There were no climate change officers in the councils to actually work on the climate change issues every day. And so we started off with a few initiatives, and we managed to train a few council staff with the support of PLGF. And if you see my laptop, there's a 350 banner. These are some of the, so these were some of the initiatives. There's a lot which we would like to share, but given the short time, my question is, how do we access climate change funding and climate change finance for building the capacities of our council staff? Because as you know, in our government, local government is a duplicate structure of the government, but the main difference is we are the implementers of the program. And our government, our president is supporting climate change, and he sends a lot of officers out to the rurals to do trainings, but they come back, they never live with the community. And yet we do not have people, in the councils to work, and talk about climate change every day so that they build a resilient community. So if, I'm just asking these questions so that if you have any funding, so if people, we've talked with a lot of, such as Martin Brennan online, and we're trying to tap as much assistance because we live every day with the impacts of climate change. So if you could give us some, hints on how we could tap these climate funds so that we can get it out to our communities and train as much as we can with the communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe we can ask some of the participants, maybe from the country perspective, any practical advice you can give in securing climate change funds that you may have been able to use for your initiatives, maybe UN Habitat, based on your experience. You can answer that question.
Yes, but maybe I should start with well, maybe when we first started with the climate change initiative in the Pacific, we did scoping of what is available in terms of funding and program in the Pacific. And we counted something like 300 climate change projects. And at the time when we started, there was not a single one that actually focused on local government or cities. So most of those programs were related to agriculture, fisheries, those type of activities. That is changing, but it's not changing fast enough in the sense for me to give you a list of money that's readily available for local governments. I think SPREP is doing an increasingly good job in terms of working with partners, has access to other regional climate change funding that is available. On the global level, of course, the climate change architecture is changing and the funding opportunities are changing. But it's not as easy as you would think, given that the Pacific is so much in the forefront for climate change funding for local governments to access the funding. I think it's critical to work with and through your national governments, convince them that local governments have to some extent the capacities, but must be at the forefront, as you said, for climate change action, and then put together a proposal with your national government and the climate change focal points in the national government.
If I may, anyway, I'm the boss, so I can speak. Just to add on the Cook Islands perspective on accessing climate change funding for implementation in the island governments and the outer islands, we have a program which is called SHRIC, and this is short for Strengthening Resilience of Island Communities. This program is funded through the United Nations Adaptation Fund Board, and it was quite an exercise to actually get the funds approved and into the country. Odie spoke earlier on about our national plan and then each island having their own island government plans. In addition to that, we also we took the information from our national plan and from these island plans and incorporated them into what we call a joint national action plan for climate change adaptation and disaster risk management. So what we've done now is we've used this JNAP, as we call it, this JNAP as the basis of all our project proposals that we've put to the international community and to funding pools to get the money to deliver the projects on the ground. The slide that Odie showed earlier on the water tank work, that's actually a SHRIC funded project. In addition to that, as the gentleman from Kiribati pointed out, we actually recognize the importance of having a climate change person on the ground. So we have a climate change, a SHRIC coordinator in each of the island councils. And their role really is to work with their council in terms of putting together their project proposals to send to the central government to seek the funding to implement these projects at the community level. So that's how we've incorporated the island councils and the communities into the central government work of trying to access climate change funding from numerous sources.
I just wanted to say, here we go. I just wanted to say a little about funding from the perspective of solar energy. We finance most of our projects, be they small, right up to the really large megawatt-sized projects. Now, our website is on those little brochures I handed out there, so you're most welcome to go to that website, and you'll see a section on finance. Finance for councils and governments especially, we can probably do I say probably because this would come down to feasibility and the project itself, but we could offer possibly a PPA, a power purchase agreement, where it doesn't cost anything to build the plant. You simply pay for the energy you use from it. And this has traditionally been the way that large power plants have been built in the past, but we're now bringing that model to smaller size projects. So that's perhaps something to keep in the back of your mind, that these projects can be built without outlay of capital, apart from initially perhaps looking at a feasibility study so that all parties can see exactly what's what. Then the financier then owns the project, and it's then the power's just paid for over a longer term, 10, 20 years, something like that. Thank you.
So because all the speakers more or less kept to their allocated time, we do have quite a bit of time left for questions and comments. So, yes, one here.
Thank you very much. My name is Martin Brennan, Regional Director for ICLEI Local Governments.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I just want to congratulate the panelists for their presentations. I think you've all done very well considering the strict application of the rules by Madam Chairperson. I wanted to make a comment and then secondly, I want to share an experience from Samoa. And the comment I wanted to make was along the lines of the issue of coordination. Now, we all know building resilience has become a very topical focus recently, and rightfully so, given our experiences to date with regards to natural disasters. We saw Solomon Islands experience this morning. We continue to live the implications of natural disasters and climate change in our own societies. But while it's all very good to be able to access all the assistance that we can get, I think the issue of coordination is important. And that we also heard from the Cook Islands experience how they are trying to coordinate accessibility by local governments and local communities to these funding opportunities and assistance. But we recognize that there's potential to improve on the coordination at national level, but I think more importantly, coordination needs to be improved also at regional and the global level, so that the regional and global organizations are also talking to each other and are also trying their best to try and pull these assistances together so that we are making more effective use of resources at national level, and so that our people are not bombarded with so many foreigners and people coming in all at different times. I mean, our experience as the ministry responsible for community development and therefore local governments, we are also stretched at national level in trying to respond to the different organizations that are coming in at different times. So I think it's definitely an issue that needs to be addressed, that needs to be considered going forward in the context of trying to build capacities of local governments and in trying to have the ability to respond and absorb all of these assistances. The experience that I wanted to share was in relation to funding and accessing climate change and climate resilience funds. We are part of a pilot program on climate resilience program, and that we understand that through this funding, there will be grants for communities, and funding will all be pulled under this mechanism. We think it's a good model because it then helps with the issue of coordination. It would also help with the issues to do with monitoring and keeping track of what's happening, and this points to the issue raised about documenting stories and collecting relevant data in order to further assess where we are and to further plan what else do we need going forward. And I think I'll stop there. Thank you, Chair.
Great, thank you for sharing Samoa's experience and a good point about coordination. I think that came up on Monday as well, that climate change is a very crowded space, so coordinating assistance and efforts is important. Maybe we'll take one on the other side of the room and then come back to...
Thank you. My name is Fatai Sokai from the local government of Ministry of Internal Affairs Tonga. Along with what has been said, just in regards to what the reflection from the Solomon Islands on the natural disaster, I just want to share a reflection of what happened of the tropical cyclone Ian that struck the Ha'apai Island group in Tonga. Just a lesson learned from the tropical cyclone. After the cyclone, there has been, as has been said, different organizations and donors coming in to conduct surveys in order to find out how much they can do to help and to assist the recovery of the island. What the lesson learned by the local government is discussed by some of the UNDP officers in the country. There should have been a preparation by the local government at the local government level in the Ha'apai group. For example, the collecting and keeping the information and the profile of the villages and the islands in the group could have been more reliable and good source of information to assist with all these aids that coming in straight after the cyclone hit the island. In that regards, we have requested an assistance from the PLGF so that we can compile a profile for each island and each village of in the government of Tonga, for the purpose of providing information from the community and proposing what the people in the community need and what's their priority need is, so that the assistance could respond exactly to the need of the people in the community in the stricken area. So the lesson learned from that, it is to strengthen the local government in compiling the detailed information, like how many houses in the area that has been that was there, and after the cyclone, what's there and what's the damage that has been done, so that the response to those needs could be exactly as Otherwise, information collected by the group from the World Bank would be different from what the Red Cross collected from different people in the community, like from the district officers. They might find out that there is more aid coming, and they might tend to increase the number of people in a household the second time the aid is being distributed. So what I'm trying to say here, a good preparation for the local government for disaster, for natural disaster, is compiling and profiling and keep updating. It's only a matter of doing a good job at one time, only once, and then keep updating. And that will also be providing information and as evidence-based information for project proposals from community. It will be something that will channel through to the information hub that has been discussed in the last CLGF meeting, is something to share among the other Pacific countries. I hope I'm making myself clear. Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing that lesson learned from Tonga. I think you raise a really good point about having the information available in order to facilitate post-disaster response and recovery. Maybe I'll just ask if I'll just ask our panelists to respond to that, but I'll get the mic. And then we'll come back to you.
Thank you. If you go back to my presentation, I would like to give a reflection. The question is, what can the local government do? That is the key question. Because talking about coordination, all the coordination now have been done by the National Disaster Coordinating Office, which is it's a government structure. When a disaster strikes, it is you and me, the local government, who are the key player. So what do we do? What can we do? I did a presentation what the council did, which I noticed, I find there are many loopholes in it. We are not strong enough, we are not coordinating enough, we are not strong enough, and so forth. Because it boils down to the act, for example, the legislations for example, that allows us to play in that level. The question remains, are we prepared? Are we ready to accept? Can we do that? This is the chance now so that we can present it to a higher level, maybe in a form of a communique. Thank you.
Maybe in support also of what Charles has said, I think maybe the disasters, but also climate change as a whole, provides for local governments a whole new host of arguments in favor of increased devolution of certain parts and increased responsibilities, but of course they need to come with resources and capacity development. There's certainly on the global level a lot of discussion on multi-level governance and climate change and the role of local governments in that context. So I think those questions that Charles asks are very pertinent. There's another dimension to it. I mean, even if local governments don't have that level of responsibility, the data collection is still very critical, and maybe if it's done by other organizations at the national government level where local governments don't have those roles, that still needs to be done, and very often is not done. In the context of Honiara, there is a partnership that UN Habitat has also been trying to support for a number of years on the ward profiling, which is between the Ministry of Land and Honiara City Council. And had that ward profiling been completed before the disaster, we would have had a completely different set of data. Many of the issues that are very, very critical after a disaster are land rights. And of course, the issue then of informality comes in, and very many of those that are particularly affected, of course, are informal settlers. And so, but if there is some documentation of where they were, then the argument about their pre-disaster property rights is a very different one from when there's nothing that can be traced anymore to where they are. And so I think there are two arguments there.
Okay, thanks. I also like to comment on the area of coordination, and it's very important. I remember back in 2010 when we had a cyclone in Aitutaki that damaged all the houses where people have no homes. So we have to build new houses. And we came, all kind of designs came into government. This will suit here. But what we ended up doing was pick up the various designs, took it to the council and have a look at it, a debate which is the best one that fits in the island setting. And also that will remain there and build resilience. So we end up rejecting a number of these designs and opted for a locally designed house that is simple but able to meet category 4, minimum category 4 winds. And we also have options of bringing people from outside to help us fast-track this activity. We rejected that and say, look, there are people who are down there who are mourning, who are also being dramatized by the whole exercise. We rather create business opportunities for our local people than give it to volunteers from outside. And that way we put money back into the community so they can slowly get back on their feet and start moving forward. So coordination is very, very important at the local level, and also between the councils. At the moment, I'm sure the mayor for Archie will tell you, sometimes they are also overloaded with requests for government ministries wanting to come over and talk things over with them every week, every now and then. So it's good to make sure that this is properly organized. The other thing that I'd like to mention is informations. We need to be able to put all the information and data that we have for each of our islands. At the moment, we are also building up our capabilities by setting up a portal within the Office of the Prime Minister to collect all information related to climate change and DRRM. And so this becomes the one-stop shop for those wanting to look at climate change informations or disaster risk issues that they are faced with. So they just need to go to the emergency Cook Islands on their portal and take out the information that they lack. Unfortunately, of course, we need money to build all this data, to collect all this information. And as I had mentioned earlier, we have used PLGF funding to collect some of the data on the Southern Group. And the next phase is to look at collecting household information from the north, and all this information feeds into the portal that is available for everyone in the ministry. It also improves our capacity to respond to disaster in the future. So that's what I just wanted to add here.
Thank you. So maybe in the interest of trying to finish up on time, we'll take one more question maybe. And then I know that maybe one or two questions, and maybe then the tea break will provide an opportunity to discuss and talk to the presenters directly. So maybe there was a question here?
It's me, I'm going
there.
to take the floor and raise, I think it's not a question, it's a comment. I think if we look at climate change, DRR, CCA, for local governments, it's an opportunity. See it as an opportunity for us to improve. And I also made a comment on Monday that climate change is a crowded space across partners. They all come with governance, food security, water security, knowledge management. So the thematic areas are all the same across partners. What do we do as local governments? We have the robust structure to the communities, and the approach is the partners come and they do a pilot in one of our provinces, our local level governments, but there are other communities to replicate the processes. If it's food security, the question is, what are the crops that we can cultivate that are climate proof or resilient to hazards? And these are questions for us. But let's see climate change, DRR, as opportunities to help us improve. We have capacity issues, and this is the time to improve or increase our capacities. For Vanuatu, one of the provinces in Vanuatu, in Shefa, we have now advertised. We saw the importance of having a person dedicated to look after this sector, climate change, DRR. So there is a climate change officer. And this is one of the first in the local provincial governments in Vanuatu. And we have, through the Vanuatu Community Resilience Project, we piloted in 12 communities, and there are lessons learned there. And I would like to support Bibi's comment for us to share the story, and perhaps through CLGF, this focus area number 5, knowledge management and research. There's more work to document the good stories across member countries of CLGF Pacific. Thank you.
Thanks. Do you want to do one more? Okay. Maybe one question here, and then one at the back. Yeah.
I got it. Can I start first? I got the microphone.
Okay.
Here.
Yeah.
I'm Tony Aimo, program manager, project manager for WIWAC Seawall project in Papua New Guinea. If you can recall, in 2008, there was a sea rise or king tide in 2008, if you can recall, king tide. And in Papua New Guinea, a number of low-lying towns were affected, and one of the towns that was affected was WIWAC. And when the sea rose, it affected a number of infrastructure, education facilities, hospital facilities, telecommunications, and all the others. So in 2010, the national government of Papua New Guinea, through the Ministry of Works, had a submission through to the national government and had it approved for a seawall project to be erected to remedy as a resilient for this particular problem. And what happened was that some funds were allocated, and Royal Boskalis, that's now working on the Lei Wharf, and also it did some studies in the WIWAC Wharf and trying to address that issue, came up with a study. And I represented the country on the European Union, and European Union under the Sustainable Development Group in the European Union is willing to fund such activities. And I'm very happy to mention here that I have put the documentations together for this particular project for seawall in WIWAC. It will cost about 430 million euro, which would be about 1.7 billion kina, to actually build a seawall project covering the whole area of 31.22 kilometers from Brandy High School all the way to War Memorial Park. And I'm working on it now. I'm getting some supports from the European Union. We can, as Pacific Island nations that are affected by this kind of disaster, also call upon European Union Sustainable Group to assist us. And I'm working on it. I've got the documentations in place. I can share it with you. And the project will kickstart sometimes in August this year for a Royal Haskonings from the Netherlands to come over to PNG to start feasibility study for 55 weeks to determine how much it will cost for the seawall project to be built in WIWAC. So I'd like to share with you There are opportunities there. We share documentations. We share data. We should be able to secure fundings from our foreign partners to assist us in trying to remedy some of our problems that we face. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for sharing the PNG experience. Maybe we'll take one more. There was a question at the front. And then we'll hand over to the participants before wrapping up.
Thank you. My name is Michelle Kalarai from Vanuatu, Secretary General for Sheva Province, and I'm also interim CEO for LAV, Local Authority Association Vanuatu. Just an additional to what Madam Director Seralala mentioned, we have a ministry now for the climate change in Vanuatu, and all funding procedures under climate change comes through that ministry. There is a national coordinating committee or task force that is set up to look through access funding for climate change. And with the presentation done by Madam Karipati yesterday about the achievements of PLGF through support funding for strategic plans or corporate plans for local authorities. For Sheva Province in Vanuatu, we also have priorities for climate change by area councils. We have 6 provinces and 3 municipalities. And for Sheva Province, we have 19 area councils. And all these area councils have different sectors that are affected by climate change. And within these area councils, we have certain sectors like agriculture, tourism, livestock, forestries, that in relation to climate change. And these priorities and plans are very important for the Sheva Province. And through, as Madam Director mentioned, through our climate change officer, as an internship officer, she works very closely with the climate change project under the Ministry of Climate Change through fundings. And we secure little funds through these projects to cater for these different sectors within the area councils. And it's working, and it's working very well. And I would just like to share some experience with other local authorities in this forum, with the support of CLGF, with strategic plannings and corporate plans. Make sure you capture your climate change issues within these plans so that you can market your corporate plan or strategic plan to funding agencies, as we have done, especially in USAID funding, that we're getting support through infrastructure in the islands in Sheva Province. In 2 projects, 2 infrastructure projects on AP Island in Sheva Province, we're getting over 600 million Vatu for infrastructure through USAID funding. So I think there's opportunities there. There are windows of opportunities there, but we need to tap into it, and we need to work together and share information on that. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you for sharing the experience of Sheva Province. In Vanuatu, I think you raised a critical point about the importance of integrating climate change considerations into local government plans. I'll just hand over to the panel to see whether there are any final comments. Otherwise, I'll ask our session chair to wrap up.
Okay. Thank you, Alison. And if we can all give Alison a hand for facilitating this session. And I'd also like to thank our presenters for the wonderful presentations this morning and your responses to the comments and questions that have come from the floor. And thank you also to those who have raised their views, their questions and their comments in this session. So I'd like to just, as a take-home message, I suppose for me, there is a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of experience about how we can deal and build resilience, response in terms of disasters and also the slow onset of climate change. And the need, what's come through in our comments in this session this morning is the need to share these experiences, to collate that knowledge, to make it available and accessible. Of course, we've heard this morning about the challenges of capacity building, funding, etc. But also, as pointed out by some speakers this morning, there are opportunities there as well. For me, as a person from central government, it's re-emphasized something that has come through over the past 3 days that we've been having our sessions, and this is the need for the central government and the local government to interact a lot more, a lot better, to have a lot more dialogue. If I can just quickly share with you an experience that we've had in the Cooks, and we've just tried this year. We have annual donor roundtables at the beginning of the year, usually around February, in preparation for the budget process. And these sessions are usually held in the capital, in Rarotonga, where all the donors or interested donors wanting to work in the Cooks come to Rarotonga and have a series of meetings about what they want to do, or we tell them what we want them to do, and they respond to, our needs and wants. Now this year, we thought that with the changes that we've made in our Island Government Act and the emphasis of that act to empower island governments to actually start building their own relationships with the donor community as well. So we took the donor meeting to Mayor George's island, and he chaired that meeting to the island of Achu. And the donors got first-hand experience of hearing from the island government what for them were their development priorities, how they saw themselves in terms of the national picture, and so on and so forth. From that meeting, a couple of weeks ago, the High Commissioner from Australia went back to Achu. And he and George are now talking to each other about things that they can do together. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that we got to help each other, like central government and local government really need to work together and create those opportunities. From a central government perspective, we have a lot to do in terms of creating the opportunities for our local governments to build their capacity and to progress. So on